Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Communicate Great podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Tracy Poe, and our other co-host, Emma Roy, is not with us this evening, but we have Daniel Felt with us. And so I am really excited to have Daniel here. He is with Kura Home. And, he and I had a conversation, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure how long ago, about communication and about communicating with teams. And so you have some insights in that. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about that. But just to get us started, do you want to go into what you do? What is Kura Home?
Yeah, most definitely. Kura Home is a routine home maintenance company. We are based out of Plymouth, Minnesota, but we do have licensees and franchises located across the U.S. We in Minnesota service over 850 homes on a quarterly basis. So it's a routine maintenance subscription, doing everything from cleaning your AC unit, cleaning your dryer vent, cleaning your refrigerator coils, basically everything you're supposed to be doing as a perfect homeowner, but no one does. And we also offer one-time services like air duct cleaning and dryer vent cleaning as well.
I love it. Okay, so you said that you have other offices or franchises throughout the United States. Where are some of those?
Yeah, we have one in just north of Orlando, another one in Illinois, and then in Denver and Seattle.
I love it. And so let's just say somebody really likes this concept. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be able to get in touch with you and just say, hey, let's talk this through? I kind of want to check this out.
Yeah, for sure. Go to our website. It's kurahome.com. That's KURAHOME.com. And we have partnership opportunities there where you can look into either bolting this on to your business, which would be like a license. If you want to start a business, you want to call it your own thing, that would be the licensing opportunity. If you wanted to start a franchise and go underneath the actual Kura Home brand, that's an opportunity as well.
I love it. Wow. Okay. All right. So now we're about communication, right? Communicate great. So you had some ideas when we were talking about ways to communicate with teams. So I'm anxious to hear all of your tips and tricks. So lay it on me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. We having teams, we've changed in sizes throughout, and we've had teams across the country, and now we have teams all over the place. And I think I'll start kind of on a 30,000 foot view level, and that's kind of getting your team to have everyone on the same page. And if you can have everyone in the same headed in the same direction, right? We're all marching to the same beat of the drum. I think that's really helpful. But I think it's really easy to say. One thing that's been really beneficial for us is to follow the EOS method, or there's a book called Traction that's really helpful to explain that. But the summary of that is you meet off-site with your leadership team every 90 days. And at that meeting, we talk about our 5, our 3, and our 1-year goals. Like who do we want to be when we grow up? And we usually the 5-year goal seems really crazy. But we break that down and we decide, hey, in the next 90 days, what do we have to do to accomplish those goals? And I think that's a really good thing. And you leave that meeting feeling really hyped up. But one thing that's really helped us with communication is after that, we want to have a weekly meeting, just a weekly check-in. That seems to be really beneficial. And I'll take our big goal. And let's say your goal is to do, $10,000 a day in sales, right? I will title that meeting with my leadership team, the $10,000 a day committee meeting. So they know exactly why we're meeting for that meeting. And I just ask questions at that meeting. Usually by the end of it, I'm giving my opinions, but I usually sit down and if that was our goal, I would say, did we do $10,000 a day each day last week? And if the answer is no, I say, why not? And they just keep on asking, why not? And it's amazing. Sometimes it's really minor. Like this one van wasn't operational because we didn't have a drill in it to complete the work. And it's like, what? Well, that drill is keeping us from getting our goals. And sometimes it's a lot larger of an issue. Like, the clients are rescheduled percentage has gone up or things like that. So from a leadership standpoint, that's been really, really beneficial. The book EOS talks a lot about that. The EOS talks a lot about that, and Traction is a really great book. On top of that, we do have a coach that helped us implement that. So that's with our leadership team. As for technicians and things that we do with our service techs, I think it's a lot of things. I think when you're starting your business and you're getting going, Tracy, people are like, oh yeah, just create training documents really quick. And it's like, well, that's great, but what do you do with them? Mm-hmm. And what we've ended up doing is we've created documents on everything that we do, and we fill out the who, why, what, when, how.
Yes.
We also fill out interesting facts. Like I could tell you that the garbage disposal was invented in Racine, Wisconsin in 1927. and no one cares about that. But sometimes you have a homeowner hovering over your neck and they're like, so what are you doing now? And for them to have the knowledge and the power to explain that. And so we fill out on also interesting facts, things not to do, and how to prevent a callback for everything that we do. And so we take those documents and they're live in Google Docs, which is free. You can have them in Google Doc. And what we have is that they're on a repeat 90-day schedule. And so my operations manager meets with my guys every morning. They have about a 10 to 15 minute huddle before everyone goes out. And they, on a repeat basis, go through those training documents, just one a day. And they go through them, and sometimes it's one or two a day. And if there's something that's out of date in that from the last 90 days, they are able to update that right there. So they can fill in there, because the guys might say, we saw a new style of garbage disposal. That hasn't happened for a long time, but we saw a new style, and here was how we fixed it. And that way, that any employee who's been at your business for 90 days or more has gone through all of the training, and they're not going to be making a mistake that someone made 1 year ago or 2 or 3, 4 years ago. And I think having those systems and processes in place in our business has really helped us to grow and scale, and just make sure that, for me, I don't have to ride along with every technician or micromanage those guys or deal with the same mistakes over and over and over. And I think those documents have been a really big part to helping us get the number of 5-star reviews that we've received online, which ultimately drives, I think it builds more trust with the consumer when they see, more Google reviews.
I love it. Okay. So what I'm hearing is really communication is at the core of your success.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, I just don't think people really understand how vital effective communication is. And so as you were talking about your processes, I was loving it because I was hearing things that I like. So first, repetition.
Mm-hmm.
So you were having the quarterly meetings, the weekly meetings, the daily meetings, and you're hitting some of the same points over and over again, right? And so starting at the top and it's funneling its way down, and it sounds like it's a really effective way to get information from the top all the way down. And so I have a team building exercise that I do about listening, and I have people divided into 3 categories, and I have the upper management, the middle management, and the worker bees. And so it's a really great test to see how well the organization is communicating. And so I love that. I love that you have those things in place. Something else that you were talking about doing that I really appreciate is asking questions. And so that is part of listening, is asking questions and having people do that back and forth until we make sure we're on the same page. So I love it.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy. It's been very beneficial, and it took a while to get there. And, I always assume I'm talking to people at all different levels of their business, but at wherever you're at, and no matter who you are, if you're not touching base on those goals and what the mission is on a regular basis, it's going to fall off, even if you're the most motivated person in the entire world. And for me, on a personal level, I want to be healthy and fit, but if I don't sign up for a race of some sort, it falls off, and all of a sudden one day not going to the gym turns into 2 and 3, and all of a sudden I haven't gone for a run for a long time. And so having those weekly meetings, reminding everyone this is why we're doing what we're doing, and I think that's been really beneficial. And I've played around with so many different things, trying to incentivize people this way, or hey, we'll get a bonus for this or a bonus for that. And those things have worked here and there, but by far the most concrete thing that has worked is having that meeting like you're talking about, and having that communication on a very consistent basis of this is what our goal is, and we're all working through it and we're talking through it. And what I really like about those meetings, when you get together and you talk about the the $10,000 a day committee, is that we can look at that and we can all figure out what when we can't keep asking why is that, you really get down to it, and it usually ends up that it's almost a different person per week, but one person kind of needs a little bit of assistance from the rest of us, and then it's actually vocalized at that meeting, well, I didn't get this done because I was too busy or whatever, and we're all able to come together and help fix that.
I love that. So you said that you played around with different things. Here's one of the things that just in different organizations that I've been part of, when you start having regular meetings, you often get those belly aches of, ugh, we have to go to another meeting. But really, they're crucial. And I don't think sometimes people recognize how crucial they are. I think sometimes they think it's a waste of time, but really it's not a waste of time. It's a measure of making sure success is going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Okay, so you said you played around with different things. Was there something that you tried in terms of communication? And the answer may be no, but was there something you tried in terms of communication that you were like, okay, not doing that again?
I think one thing that happened to us when we were having these meetings on a regular basis, I at one point, rather than coming to it open-minded and just asking, hey, do we hit this big goal? I would have each team member like fill out actual data points on did you hit it, and it was they didn't like it. They didn't like that it was like a Google sheet. It was in and it was like how many callbacks did we have? How many 5-star reviews did we have? What was our sales? What was it was so many breakdowns and so many numbers. And I think that people felt like it was almost like bringing your report card to mom and dad home, and like but they
Yes.
weren't sure if it was an A or a C minus. Like, where am I at on this? It was, and it needed I felt like my team was losing confidence through that. And so I got rid of that completely. It's like, hey, we're not gonna, you can, all I need to know is how everything's going. I just want to know one thing that we're working towards, and how's that going. And when you keep asking questions, all these other things that are working well or not working well, they come out of the woods at that meeting. So I used to, because I'm a really analytical person. I love data. I love to see trends. Like, I love looking at my P&L and seeing what's going on with my company.
Right.
But it's just so much better when you're working with human beings. Just let them be human beings, bring their opinion to that meeting, and because you get more out of it rather than all of us looking at the data together and be like, well, what do you guys see? Because I see that this number went from X percent to that percent, and it's not as enjoyable for sure.
I love that you're bringing them into the equation, that you are valuing their thoughts. And so you're right. So many times people go into a meeting, a leader, with this is what we're going to do, and their mind is closed. And I think they often miss an opportunity to learn something or hear something or get a great idea. So you mentioned something about keep asking the questions. And so one of the things that I talk to people, and I even do this with myself, if I've got a situation, if I'm feeling a certain way about a certain thing, I will start asking myself, and I've done this with other people, I'll say, trace it back, trace it back, trace it back, trace it back. And we keep tracing it back until we're at the end, right? And so I hear that when you're talking about asking the questions, and then you ask the question, and then you ask the question. So you're doing that. You're tracing it back. You're tracing it back. So I love that. That's another really great technique to use. All right. So what other things might you suggest someone in a different business try in terms of communicating with their team? Are there any other tips that you might have before we wrap this up?
Yeah, besides constant communication, which obviously being on this podcast, we all agree is very important. I think it's being in touch with your employees and taking a little bit of time each week, especially your direct reports. Just say, how's it going? And for me, I used to have a very like focus, and this kind of going against what I said earlier. I used to have like a really like I'd have like a check-in time with them, and it would be at 9:15 on this day. And now what I just do is at some point during the week, I make sure to talk to each one of my employees one-on-one and just ask them a few questions. How's it going? How's life at home? What's going on? Like I know all my employees' birthdays. I know all these things. I know that when they get a new pet, or if they're going to be a grandma or a new parent, things like that, just by asking a few questions.
Love it.
And after we talk for a few minutes, it's like, and how's work going? So it's like just being real with your employees, and so they feel connected to you and they know who you are. And it's pretty rare that they're asking me about my day. That's pretty, which is totally fine. That's not our relationship, but just getting to know your employees and checking in with them at least once a week. How's it going? And
Right.
usually I have enough drive time or a Thursday, Friday, just to check in with them if we have that meeting on Tuesdays, so that it's, I'm here, we're connected. I have a pulse of what's going on in my company, But doing that, putting a little bit of effort into that has allowed me to pull back farther from the day-to-day things at my company and be able to work on, bigger things like, expanding into different locations and things like that, because the
Wow.
day-to-day stuff of our business really runs smoothly.
Wow. Okay. So that is huge. Investing in your employees, that allows them to know and understand that they're valued. And when somebody is valued, whether it's a work relationship, a relationship at home, wherever that relationship is, when someone feels appreciated and valued and seen and heard, they will give so much more than feeling invisible or unappreciated. I was actually having a conversation with someone in the last couple of days, and they feel very, very unappreciated at work. And it definitely impacts them. It impacts their, it impacts your desire to want to do the best you can do if you're not being appreciated. If you are out there killing it, and then management's like, well, why aren't you doing this? Instead of, wow, compared to your peers, this is fantastic. Good job. Not that at all. It's, why aren't you doing this? And so I just love your heart for your employees, your understanding of the way that people need to feel, again, seen and heard and all of those things. So nice. I love it. I'm so glad that you came on and that you shared this, because I know that we have business people that do listen to the podcast. We say we do tips and tricks for people, personal or professional, but I know that we definitely have business owners that listen to this. And so this is going to be very, very helpful for them. So I just appreciate you coming on the show, and our friend Steve for recommending you to come on. And I'm just, Steve, thank you if you watch the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
So anyhow, we will be putting your information in the description of the podcast and making sure we've got your website on there. And I'm going to mention those books. I'll drop the books that you talked about on there as well, with a link to those. And any other thing before we close out? Oh, I do need to thank our sponsor, but anything from you before I close out with our sponsor?
That's it for me. Thanks for having me on today, Tracy.
Oh, you are so welcome. I'm glad you came on. So I want to thank Lauren Patton with the Wellness Company for being our sponsor, and I will drop her information as well. She has toxic-free products, and I use a lot of them, and Emma does as well, and one of my sons does. And so I just know a lot of people who use her products, and they just love them. So I will definitely drop Lauren's information and a link to her store. And so that is it. Daniel, thank you again for coming on, and we will see everyone at the next podcast.